They told us the walls were insulated, that nothing could pass through. No voices, no scratching, no whispers from the vents. But every morning, as I sat in the drab hush of the briefing room, with bitter coffee in my hand and a growing knot in my stomach, I could still hear it. Faint, rhythmic, like nails brushing steel, like something trying to remember how to escape. We all tried not to talk about it. Instead, we reviewed patient loads beneath flickering fluorescence. The room was coated in a film of aged pastels and hospital gray, like an old photograph no one wanted to frame. It always began the same way. Clipboard check-ins, medication shifts, the dull parade of statistics from tired nurses orbiting the oval table like ghosts in scrub tops. And then there was Alec Barnes. The new guy. A pest. He had the look. Tight jaw, military posture, eyes too wide to be tired like the rest of us. Every clinic gets one. A Weisenheimer. Fresh out of school, bursting with new rules and no idea what they're walking into. Always ready to say, I have to disagree, or, where I came from, we did things this way. He was the kind of nurse who thought he'd found his calling just because he could fill out a chart without crying. I've seen his type before. I remember one in clinicals who used to quote textbook procedure like scripture, until she forgot to clamp a dopamine drip and turned her patient's bed into a biohazard. Nothing bursts the ego quite like failure in fluorescent lighting. And Alec was long overdue, but he wasn't the problem. The problem arrived on a stretcher, soaked from the rain and with eyes like shuttered windows. Roland Boulle. 10 paper clips, 8 marbles, 5 drywall nails. That's what they pulled from his stomach. He had pica, an uncommon compulsion to eat inedible things. Severe cases are rare. Roland's was extreme. Add major depression, anxiety, PTSD, and I knew from the moment they wheeled him in, something was wrong. Not wrong like troubled. Wrong like rot beneath wallpaper. Like a locked door with no hinges. I was assigned to his case the next morning. His room was clean but cold, like a college dorm after the semester ends. One window overlooking a pale stretch of asphalt, the tray table facing the glass. Roland was already there, hunched over a crossword with a rubber ballpoint, shoelaces gone, hospital bracelet loose on his wrist, hair long and stringy, hanging like old drapes around a face that was all scars and silence. I knocked. "Good morning, Mr. Boulle," I said. He looked up, slowly, eyes like puddles, lips closed but not tense, just waiting. I introduced myself, told him I was here to make his stay as smooth as possible. He stared at my hands. Then, out of nowhere, "You have piano fingers." "I'm sorry?" "My father had them too," he said, flexing his fingers. "Used to play all the time. Gymnopedies." Despite the scars on his face, there was a softness to his voice. I chuckled, told him I'd taken lessons once, but nothing stuck. He nodded, scratching his chin absently, rubbing at the lines crisscrossing his skin. I didn't know it then, but Roland wasn't trying to make conversation. He was trying to measure me, trying to see how deep I could go before I'd drown. Over the next week, the ward learned fast. Roland needed eyes on him at all times. He swallowed the power button from a remote, the volume controls, the cap from a soap dispenser, then the rubber pen he'd used for his crosswords. We adjusted, gave him iron supplements, fed him spinach and liver and anything that might slow the craving. And for a while it worked. He smiled more, talked more, stopped eyeing the air vents like they whispered to him. But then we found out he'd been hiding the pills under his tongue, spitting them out. He wasn't eating anymore either. Not food anyway. One evening I walked into his room. He was staring out the window again. Same tray of untouched food beside him. Same expression, like he'd been frozen mid-thought. "You should eat something," I told him. "Otherwise, we'll have to go the tube route." His head didn't move. Then he said it, soft and cracked. "It's coming." "What is?" No answer. Just Roland, locked into the glass like he was trying to remember something awful. That night, the scream woke up half the ward. I ran to his room. He was thrashing in bed, flailing like something had crawled into him. Eyes wide, mouth locked, hands wrapped tight around his own throat. I tried to pull him away, tried to calm him. He wouldn't let go, and then his body lurched. A deep, gurgling sound boiled up from his chest. That's when I saw them. Fingers. Wet. Bloated. Inside his mouth. Pale and slick with spit. Bruised purple. Nails blackened and split like cracked seashells. They were reaching out. Crawling. Pulling. They bent over his face, scraping grooves into his cheeks, prying open his jaw wider than it should go, and then gone. Just like that. Another nurse, Alec of all people, had arrived. I barely heard him speak. We sedated Roland fast, 3 different drugs to bring him down. Afterwards, I told myself it was a hallucination, a moment of stress, shock. I repeated it like a mantra all night long. But the dream didn't let me lie. In it, I stood in his room again, but this time it was me screaming. Me with the hands on my throat. Me feeling something climb its way out of my body and into the world. I woke up gagging, on nothing, and still, the walls whispered. Still, the scratching came from somewhere just behind the vents. A few days passed before I saw Roland again. He'd been granted supervised time in the outdoor patio, a small, fenced-in patch with benches, some chipped murals and hanging flower pots that never seemed to bloom. He asked for me, specifically. The scratches on his face had faded into thin, jagged veins beneath his skin. He looked almost peaceful, sitting beneath the overcast sky. "Rain's coming," he muttered, eyes closed. "You can smell it." "I hope it waits till after my shift," I said. He opened his eyes slowly. "You saw it?" he whispered. The air stiffened between us. "I don't know what you mean." "You do." His voice was calm. "I had to wait for you to see them, otherwise you'd never believe me." I didn't respond. He smiled, just a little. "But if you don't listen now, you'll never understand. You'll spend the rest of your life wondering what crawled out of me." The flowers swung gently in the wind. "It started with ice," he said. "I used to chew it, over and over. It quieted my thoughts. Then it was paint chips, coins, bits of rust. I thought I was just anxious, a broken kid." He paused, looking into the concrete beneath our feet. "I lived in a big house with expensive silence. My mother was kind. My father was detached. One of those men who thinks money is affection. He wasn't cruel, just hollow." "A collector of what?" I asked. "Dark things," he answered. "An executioner's noose, a cleaved skull, a soldier's canteen still caked with dried blood. He had an antique piano. He'd play 2 notes in the dead of night like they meant something. Always the same, too." He looked up at me. "One night I snuck into his studio. He was out of town. I saw a ring on the shelf. Belonged to a dead woman. Said to be cursed. It felt familiar, like it wanted to be inside me. So I swallowed it. I felt a chill ripple through my ribs. I passed it the next day. Cleaned it, put it back. He never noticed. So I did it again. A cat's bone, a cracked femur, a bullet dug out of a corpse. Little offerings, little secrets, like communion between us, father and son. The unspoken bond of consuming history." He fell quiet. "When I moved out," he continued, "I stopped, cold turkey. I tried to forget, but I could feel them inside me, the objects or the echoes they left behind. He touched his chest. I thought they were just memories, but they weren't. Something stayed. Something grew. His voice dropped. Something that wants out. I stared at him. What exactly are you saying, Roland? But the glaze had returned to his eyes. I'd like to go back inside now, he said. That was the last time he spoke to me. The ward resumed its rhythm. New cases, new meds. Everyone moved on, except me, because I couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting. 3 nights later, I went to check on Roland. His room was dim, the sink running behind the bathroom door. I knocked. Roland, you okay? No answer. I stepped inside just as the door slammed open, rebounding off the stopper and off Roland. He stumbled backward into the room, clutching his throat. His face was purple, lips blue, foam pouring from his mouth. Choking, I gasped. I grabbed him, locked my arms under his ribs, hauled upward. Nothing came out. I tried again. Still nothing. Footsteps behind me. Alec Barnes. What's happening? He's choking! I barked, sweat pouring down my neck. Then I felt it. Movement. Inside Roland's abdomen. A slow, deliberate shift, like something had turned over in a nest of organs. Then, he spasmed. His mouth stretched wide, too wide. He screamed, and something heavy hit the floor. I caught a glimpse, not a full one. Just enough. A shape, slick and gray, dragging itself toward the vent beneath the vanity. Something wet and wrong, with no limbs, no face, only folds of motion and an oily slick of glistening flesh. The vent snapped open. Alec screamed. I dropped to the floor. Laid Roland down. No pulse. I started compressions, breath heaving in my lung. He was gone. But the blood on the floor led to the open duct. The metal grill was bent. Something had forced its way through. And Alec stood still as a corpse, his mouth open, eyes blank. The last trace of arrogance peeled from his face like rotted paint. The autopsy listed esophageal rupture, torn muscle, unhinged jaw. But they found nothing inside. Nothing that should have torn him like that. Alec quit the next morning. He refused to talk, just shook his head and walked out. And the sounds in the vents started again. Faint, constant, crawling. The patients hear it, even the nurses. We've checked the ducts. Maintenance swears they're empty, but at night, I still hear it. Close to my bed, tapping from inside the wall. I don't look. I won't, because I know what it is. I know what came out of Roland Boulle, and now it lives here.